Hi, I'm David Facone, and this is the Grow Your Network, Grow Your Business podcast, the show where we discuss how quality relationships lead to business success. From entrepreneurs to business development professionals and beyond, you will learn the true value that quality networking will have on your business. Welcome to the Grow Your Network, Grow Your Business podcast, where you will learn how trusted business relationships lead to increased revenue. I'm your host, David Facone, founder of Be Sure, where we believe that growing your business could be difficult, but joining us is easy. Today's episode is sponsored by Applegate Farm in Upper Montclair, New Jersey. Since 1848, Applegate Farm has been providing families in northern New Jersey with fresh dairy products and is now one of the largest retail outlets for ice cream on the East Coast. Visit them at 616 Grove Street in Upper Montclair or at applegatefarm.com. Applegate Farm, sweet scoops of the past. Our guest today is Jason Street, president of Allegiance Insurance Brokers. After growing up in Old Town, Maine, and graduating from the University of Maine, Jason moved to New Jersey in 1993. Since making his home in New Jersey, Jason has owned, managed, and launched several businesses, including Allegiance Insurance Brokers in 2016. Welcome to the podcast, Jay.
Thank you for having me, David.
Thanks, man. Before I ask you about your businesses and how you got started as an entrepreneur, I want to talk a little bit about relationships. The nature of the Grow Your Network, Grow Your Business podcast is networking and relationship building. In my opinion, knowing you as well as I do, your success is largely based on the relationships you formed in your life. Can you share with us the importance of all the relationships that you've built so far?
Well, I feel that having strong relationships with your friends, with your family, and your employees is very important, because without your friends and family employees, when you're going through tough times, you have no safety net or individuals that can help pick you up.
Speak a little bit about how your relationship with your friends and family have influenced you as an entrepreneur.
Well, I think having your family, most importantly, you need to have your family behind you. Every family goes through their trials and tribulations.
Sure.
Over the course of time with, launching new businesses to, just struggling sometimes with your businesses, and having, your relationships with your family. I think the most important thing that I've learned over the years is trust.
Sure.
And you need to, work with, your family as well as your friends and as well as your employees to maintain that trust.
I couldn't agree with you more, because I know for me personally, relationship with my wife, with my daughter, I'm working on my business sort of in a bubble a lot of times, and that trust is a big part of keeping our relationship strong. So I totally agree with you. Now, I love the story of how you grew up in Maine, but then wound up jumping into the business world here in New Jersey, which seems to be a whole world apart from living up in Maine. It's an excellent relationship story. Can you share how that happened? How did you wind up owning a business here in New Jersey when you grew up in Maine?
Well, it started back, I always say if there wasn't a Vietnam War, I would not be in New Jersey.
How was that?
Because my aunt and uncle, who obviously met each other back at the time of the Vietnam War, did not get married until 1991.
Okay.
And my uncle being from Maine and my aunt being from New Jersey, after many years of living their own lives, they decided to reconnect, from 1969 until 1991.
Okay.
And then they ended up getting married, and at their wedding, my aunt asked me, what are you doing for work next summer, as I was a student at the University of Maine. And I said, well, I'll probably go back and be a lifeguard next year. She said, well, you're going to school for business and economics. You should come down and I will teach you everything you need to know about running an ice cream store.
Wow. That's wild. I know you shared with me that you would come down in your summers and scoop ice cream and do everything from the ground up, and now what is it? 30 years later, you're still owning the place, right?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yep.
So in the introduction, we did mention that today's episode is sponsored by your ice cream store, Applegate Farms, and that you also own Allegiance Insurance and one or two other businesses. But just comparing the differences between a retail ice cream store, an insurance agency. Applegate's has been around for almost 175 years. It's your anniversary next year, so congratulations on that.
Thank
That's
you.
quite an accomplishment. But when you have a business like that is seemingly successful for such a long time, what makes you want to go start something else like an insurance agency that's totally different?
Well, let me take a step back, answer the first question. The first question was, how does a business become successful for that long of a period of time? With Applegate Farm, obviously, I had the opportunity to take over and buy a business in 1994 from my family. And having the consistency of service, consistency of product, and as you know, in ice cream businesses, when people come up to the counter, they can be in the worst mood. But our goal is to make them happy with a smile.
Wow. I love that. It's tough. I know, I'm eating my way through your menu, as you know. I never know what to choose when I come here, so I just started at A and I'm going through it. And I don't think I've had one bad ice cream experience here. And you're right, you can come here in the worst of moods, and you can't help but leave happy. So how about the second part of the question? You've sort of mastered customer service and making your ice cream customers happy. How does that translate into your insurance business?
Well, I think I've been obviously working with families for over 30 years, and trying to you communicate with them, you're helping them solve problems. I mean, with an insurance brokerage like Allegiance, when somebody comes to us, we're not selling insurance. We are identifying the need and communicating with the individual to try to help them through some of their trials and tribulations, similar to myself being in business, going through some ups and downs as well. We help them sort through and prioritize and help find solutions to some of their problems.
I like that. So what was the impetus behind, venturing off to start the insurance company in the first place? What made you want to do that?
Because myself, as I mentioned, you go through some ups and downs, and with, economically, when the market crashed in '08, I was put into a position where, I needed to make decisions. We needed to downsize. We had multiple other satellite locations that we needed to downsize.
Okay.
And I had, really truthfully, I had a really great employee, which I have a really great relationship with, Harold Thompson, that is, stood by my side through the ups and the downs. And, without him, I probably would have made the decision. If he wasn't here, I would have made the decision to just step back into the business and not step out into the insurance business.
Wow. So that is powerful. So, I'm glad you brought up Harold, because I think that's so valuable to the success of a business is, delegating the right way, right? And I know you mentioned the word trust earlier, and you are now running two successful businesses, more than two, but we don't need to get into the other ones. But for all intents and purposes, you have an ice cream business, you have an insurance agency. You're hands-on 9 to 5 in your insurance agency. You have Harold, who's been in Applegates with you for years, and you have a sense of trust there. How do you think you and Harold have come to the point in your relationship where you feel comfortable leaving such a successful business in his hands?
Because there's very few people that will treat a business like their own.
Wow. I think you can stop there. That's unbelievable. And I know, we've had many conversations about this, and you are certainly not the tyrant owner and boss. When you get a good person and you recognize that this employee does treat your business like their own, you have to treat them with dignity and respect, and give them the time they need for their families and their personal life. And it's not all about the business.
Correct. I think Harold and I share the same values with our family, because there's a lot of times that he needs off from work to spend time with the family.
Sure.
And I value that. I think that's very important.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So, taking a little bit of another direction with our conversation, as in talking about another part of your relationships, which I'm leading into, as an insurance broker, I know you have access to products and policies that other agencies might not have. I know you have partnerships with some of the brokers that own these other agencies who really on paper are your competitors, but yet you're finding ways to work with them every day. How is it that you're growing your business by working with your competition?
It's very similar to the ice cream business. I mean, you had mentioned the other business that I have. I have a wholesale distributorship.
That's right.
Called Lakeland Confectionary Supply.
Okay.
And we sell ingredients. We sell confectionery items to other ice cream competitors.
Wow.
All throughout New Jersey and all across the United States.
Wow.
So you just find ways we're all in the same boat.
Right. And I think you can use, the word trust again. The relationships matter, treating everybody with dignity and respect, and stay in your lane. I know that the whole nature of your relationship with other insurance brokers is if they can't service their customer the right way, and maybe you can, or vice versa, you're happy to share the wealth a little bit, but you know enough to stay in your lane because that relationship is valuable to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have other brokerages, other captive markets. You have I'm going to say, for example, your Allstates and the State Farms and so on and so forth. They have a very, kind of a limited, product that they can offer to some of their customers.
Okay.
And I think the trust is that if they come to Allegiance, they are getting the trust that, they're bringing they might have 3 or 4 policies with that client, that I'm not going to go after those other 3 or 4 policies.
100%. You're just adding value. You're not trying to take something that isn't rightfully yours.
Right. Just to give you an example, 2 weeks ago, I had a client that was with me for 2 years because he had a banged up driving record. Mm-hmm. And then after a couple of years, he ended up going back to the original broker.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. Wow. So in a way, you helped a competitor regain a customer.
Correct.
Wow. That's really powerful. That's really powerful. So the fact that you work so well with other insurance agents is really a testament to your work ethic, in my opinion. What would you say is the best advice you could give to a business owner or to someone who's maybe considering starting a business, like you've done several times? What advice would you give them, to be successful from the jump?
I think you need to find something you love to do, and I enjoy the core of who I am is I like to help people.
Yeah.
And if I can teach somebody something, or at least be somebody to help guide them through some of the things that I've been through, and they can learn from what I've been through. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I'll learn what somebody else has been through.
Right.
Similar to yourself, with Be Sure.
Sure.
We share our ideas.
We do.
Sometimes, it might stimulate the conversation to lead to other.
Sure. Right. Yeah. And I think, no man is an island either. It's talking about delegating to your employees like Harold. That's one way that you can support your growing business. But for someone out there listening to our podcast today who is a solo entrepreneur or maybe considering starting a business, and they're afraid because maybe they have a skill that can add value and revenue to their lives, but maybe they don't know, how to, do their bookkeeping or what kind of insurance they might need. Leaning on the relationships of people who are experts in those fields can provide an awful lot of value. Another
prime example, who happens to be, I referred him over to one of the other Be Sure groups.
Okay.
With the Be Sure network.
Yep.
I'm going to mention Joe Knockbauer.
Sure.
I've learned a lot over the years from him. Him being working for State Farm,
right?
And we continue to help each other out to this day.
Yeah, and Joe's a great guy, and you and he have similar personalities and ideals and work ethic, and it works. Yeah. That's great. That's great.
And that's a relationship I value.
And you should, because I know this is one that can last you for many years and be fruitful both ways. So if you had to do it all over again, whether I know you bought the ice cream business and you don't look that old, so you probably didn't start it 175 years ago. You bought it when it was already up and running. But if you had to start it all over again, either buying the ice cream business from your family or launching Allegiance, what would you do differently if you had to do it all over again?
I would say probably nothing differently.
No?
For the fact that I've learned so much more in the past 30 years
Right.
of running multiple businesses and
Sure.
then falling on your face
Okay.
and getting picked back up by friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
It's an education that you could never pay for.
Wow. That's a powerful answer, and I know you've probably heard the expression, you either win or you learn, right?
Yep.
So you can't win, if you turn back the clock and change something, maybe you wouldn't learn as much as you did in the last 30 years. Well, that's great, man. Well, much of our discussion today was centered around relationships, and I use our relationship as an example of how business becomes automatic after trust and rapport is established. We went from being complete strangers less than 10 years ago to being, great friends who have done business together, played golf together, gone out to dinner together. My daughter babysits for your kids. So we've had a lot of business and professionalism, but we've also had a lot of fun and laughs. So thank you for being a great friend. Thank you for being a trusted partner. And most importantly, today, thank you for being our guest on the podcast. If our listeners would like to reach out to Jason, he can be found at allegianceinsurancebrokers.com. And if you're listening and you want to hear more from entrepreneurs who have built their businesses by forming quality relationships, please subscribe to our podcast. You can also like and follow Be Sure on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And remember, as always, business relationship building is a choice, not a chore. Be sure to be building your business relationships the right way. See you next time.
Thank you for having me.
You got it, brother.